Good morning, guys. I'm super excited to bring on our next author, who I will be interviewing all the way from San Diego. It is none other than Tessa McFionn. She's well known for her science fiction, which I absolutely love. We're going to talk about a debut novel that came out in 2014 called Spirit Fall in the Guardian series, and all the books leading up to a recent release as well. I'm really excited about this one because Tessa is a very proactive author. She's always doing things in the community, whether it's from helping organise and volunteering in Comic Cons, and she's also the treasurer for Romance of Writers in San Diego. So I'm super excited to talk a little bit more about that and what it entails. And let's just get straight into it. Let's go say hi to Tessa. Thank you, guys. First of all, I want to say thank you for coming on, Tessa. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. How are you doing today?
I am fabulous as always, and I have my tea, and I'm talking with you, and it couldn't be any better. I'm excited for this. So we'll go into question one straight away. What's it like living in San Diego?
Oh my God. San Diego is, I have to admit, it's pretty amazing. I I grew up here, and then I went to college up in Northern California behind the Redwood Curtain, up in Humboldt, otherwise known as the pot capital of the state. But anyway, I digress. So I went to college up in Northern California, and then I transferred down to Orange County to Cal State Fullerton, or again, as we called it, Cal State Disneyland. But I came back to San Diego. It's beautiful. I do absolutely love it. Yeah, the biggest complaint that we have is every once in a while it rains. It's gorgeous. It's if I want to go to the beach, it's 10 minutes to the beach. If I want to go to the mountains, it's about half hour, 45 minutes to drive up to the mountains and see snow. So everything is just so close. It is an interesting city. It is a very, very beautiful, sunny place with lots and lots of very tanned, very, very pretty people. And then there's me, who hides in the dark and has no tan lines ever. I never have. Thank you for being Irish. But I love San Diego. It's amazing.
I want to know what gave you the inspiration for your first book, Spirit Fall, in your Guardian series. So what gave you the inspiration for it, and how did you find the process of writing it and then self-publishing it?
Every piece of advice that you get is write what you know. That's usually the first piece of advice for any kind of beginning authors. I've sat in on so many author talks throughout my entire life, but I happen to be in a very, very dark place in my personal life, and very similar to the character in my book, my heroine. And it starts off with her looking over the edge of one of the there's actually a bridge in San Diego. It's the true name of it is the Cabrillo Bridge, but it was always called Suicide Bridge the whole time I was growing up, because it is ridiculously high. And for years, people would be, it sounds so horrible, but people would become speed bumps because it landed right onto one of the freeways. It was over a huge, gigantic freeway. But I happened to be in a kind of a dark place. I was walking across the bridge and looked out. I wasn't like standing there contemplating, but I was looking out onto the bridge, and I was seeing the skyline of the city. And I happened to think, wow, if I was, really in a bad place, wouldn't it be really cool if there was somebody who would be there to rescue me? And that was how my first guardian, Malachi, that was how he came into being. He helped me through that kind of very, very dark place. And through him, so right after that, like that next night, I go home and I take out my little laptop and I start writing. And I start writing, and I keep writing, and I keep writing, and and it's growing, and it's just getting crazy. And all this stuff is coming in, and all these different characters, and all this is going back and forth. And my husband's looking at me, and he's looking at me on the next, as I sit next to him on the couch, and he's looking at me going, well, what are you doing? It's like, nothing. nothing. I'm just kind of just getting some stuff out. And I was terrified to show it to anybody for just years. But I finally thought, well, the worst that's going to happen is somebody's going to say no. And so I started to put it out there, and I had a lot of friends. Of course, again, we give our babies to people that we know are going to love them and tell us great, wonderful things, so we feel good about ourselves. Well, I did that, and then I sent it out to publishers, and that was not so great and wonderful, and kind of like, I'm a failure, I'm awful. In fact, I actually got a letter from a publisher who will remain nameless that basically said, please don't ever send us anything else. And this is, I know, right? But I knew I wanted to get my story out there. So that meant a little bit, extra legwork and trying to make this all work. Technically, it's really interesting because my Guardian series is technically with a very, very, very small press, and they do the ebook versions of it, and I'm the one that does all of the print versions of it. And of course, because I've done the print versions and I have more power over the covers, I love my covers so much more of my print books than the ebooks. And it's almost at that point where I'm going to look to see if we can just split that off and just take it all on my own. There's something about doing all of that legwork. At first, I didn't want to, because in my little mind, I was terrified to self-publish because I didn't feel like my work would have any validity if I just put it up there myself. But after meeting with so many independent authors and talking to so many people and hearing the horror stories about the publishing world and all of this kind of stuff, I realized that it's not something, it's like, oh, well, you just put your book up on Amazon. No, you don't just put your book up on Amazon. That's not how it works. Not if you want to put something that you feel is deserving of other people to read. And I always want to make sure that, an advice that I got from actually a very good friend of mine, a piece of advice said, write the book that you want to read. And I loved the story that I created. So I was willing to do whatever needed to be done to make sure it got out there.
It's quite interesting too, just in regards to, I haven't really spoken to an author who originally started off with submitting their ebook only to a publisher. I have personally, well, a small press should I say, I've done this as well. It wasn't for my first books, but during my career I did the same thing, and I had a contract with them for a year, and the hype was lovely and it was great, but certainly wasn't the revenue I was hoping, and I took my rights back as well. So ebook is, like, both aspects, both paper book and ebook are difficult, but I would encourage you to do it to a degree too, because you're gonna have to do a lot of research. So just on small things like keywords and descriptions and stuff like that. But there's a couple of links. There's a really good group on Facebook. Have you ever signed up to 20K to 50K books?
No, I haven't.
I would highly recommend them. I'll send you a link afterwards, just if you want to have a look, but it's an amazing group, and it's basically on authors within the industry who do earn 50, 100,000 plus a month. And so it's a really beneficial group that it's the real talk. Nobody's, flowering stuff. This is what you have to do. This is what's been successful for them. Here's platforms and here's promotions or whatever, but it really helps you on the technical side of it. And I think it's really important because it's, as you said, it's not just going out and going bam, publish on an ebook. There are so many things on the technical side of it that constantly needs to be updated as well. So I would highly recommend doing it because it is more beneficial, and you can see whereabouts you are as well in your career. I think it's easier when you can look at all your stats opposed to receiving a report from a third party. So definitely. I think I believe in you, so I reckon definitely give it a go.
Sounds great. Definitely, please.
So what's been your favorite book to write so far, and why?
Of my Guardian series right now, the one that still to this day it's my favorite, is actually my third book. My third book was my favorite. It's called Spirit Song, and I think the reason that it was my favorite is because I have a reluctant hero, and I call him my reluctant hero because I so many times you always think about the bad boy and the motorcyclist and all that kind of, no. He actually was an Italian Renaissance assassin. All of the main characters in my Guardians books are warriors that have been pulled off of ancient battlefields to fight to protect humanity. And he's I call him my reluctant hero because he didn't realize that he was signing up to be one of the good guys. So he was an assassin that was being paid by one of the very influential families, the Borgias, because I mean you've got to have that historical aspect in there. And he was protecting one of their artists, and he stumbles across a fight, and so he joins in the fight because why not? And he ends up saving one of the other Guardians from a fight, but the guy's horribly wounded, and he ends up giving him his power. So he says, "Okay, congratulations, you're now one of the good guys. I'm out of here." So he has no idea what's going on. Like I said, he's been an assassin, so he's not the nice, warm, fuzzy person. And now congratulations. Not only are you fighting for the good guys, you're fighting for the good guys forever. Forever. And so, there's no like, oh, well, I've done my contract and I can bounce. So to me, he's always been my special person, because even though and he is such a bastard. I'm sorry, but he's not warm and fuzzy and cuddly. And so of course I have to pair him with he's got a partner / sidekick / buddy that is, and this guy is always smiling and he's happy. And so he's dragging this guy around for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's like, oh my God, will you just let me be by myself? And he won't. So Victor's always dragging him along. It's like, come on, let's go here, yay. So I have to give him such a bubbly person to feed off of. There was something about him he's always been very, very near and dear to my heart.
You're the treasurer for Romance Writers Group in San Diego. Mm-hmm. I want to know a little bit more about that. One, that's awesome. How did you get into that role? And also, can you explain to me a little bit more about what it actually is and how it benefits authors and budding writers?
Okay, so I actually joined RWA back in 2015. So it was just a little bit after my first book had been published. And a friend of mine was just talking about, oh, there's this group, you should probably join them. And I discovered that there was a local chapter in San Diego. And so I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll show up. It took a little bit, but after a while, after I'd finally, met some other people, because as we all know, the first time you go to any kind of an established group and you walk in as the absolute noob, you stand there and it's like everybody's in little pockets talking, and everybody's already, they've already got their friends. To me, it's kind of like the same idea as being, the new kid at school, and everybody's already got their little cliques of friends, and you're walking around from group to group going, hi, will you be my friend? Hi, will you be my friend? But I did make some really, really great connections. And I was asked like a year or two after that if I wanted to serve on the board. And again, me being the weirdo that I am, I sat there and I thought, oh, me, you want me? Oh my gosh, you like me, you really like me. I got a little bit more involved in it, and I've made so many amazing connections within this world. I mean, even if it's just somebody to to sit down with and say, hey, I'm stuck with this little problem with my character. Let's, somebody to sit there and brainstorm with, somebody to just bounce ideas off of. And the other thing I think that was really great was you're surrounded by people that truly speak the same language that you do. It was always nice to be able to just have a conversation with somebody and not have them look at you like you just grew a second head, because whatever you're talking about, they just, I don't know. Are you talking about real people? Is this something that's really happening? Do I have to call somebody for you because you're talking about this person that's following? No. It's not. Never mind. But it's so nice to have that camaraderie and that common ground. So many opportunities to take workshops on craft, on marketing. I've had speakers come out that talk about how if you're writing some kind of a suspense thing. We had somebody that came out that was a forensic pathologist and was able to say, this is stuff that you are going to be seeing. This is the order. You've got to make sure all of these little details, anything to help all of us become better at being storytellers.
I want to talk about something that you are very passionate about and an advocate, and it goes a little bit like Disneyland. So you absolutely love Disneyland. Everywhere I was reading, you're like, Disneyland this, Disneyland that. And I feel like I'm missing out on something because I have not been to Disneyland yet. And I want you to basically tell me in an informative reason as to why I should be there.
Why you should go to Disneyland. Well, let me start. I truly am. I'm a Disney kid. I grew up when I was a little kid. We lived in Orange County, which is where Disneyland was. And we would go, I am not joking, we would go just about every week. Because at the time, it was, oh my gosh, I don't even know how much it was to get in at that time. It was ridiculously cheap. And this was back in the day with the tickets, when you actually had to have tickets to go onto the individual rides. That's what it used to be. You'd get these ticket books, and each ride had a different designation of what kind of a ticket it was. We would go all the time. We moved down to San Diego. We didn't quite go every week, but we would go at least 2 or 3 times a year, because we'd go at Christmas time, we'd go at our birthday, we'd go during the summer. And I was always surrounded by that just feeling of magic. And that, to me, that's part of my brand. That's my little tagline is time to believe in magic. I grew up watching my parents would take me to go see all the Disney movies. And I think they wanted a princess, but no. I think I fell in love with Maleficent the very first time I ever saw the movie. I was probably about 7. Because she turned into a dragon. How friggin' awesome can that be? Best power ever. She wore purple and she turned into a dragon. She had been my hero for as long as I can remember. I'm not really sure if I want to say it's an innocence, but it's just that childlike wonder that comes around with it. So I highly recommend Disneyland to everybody. I haven't even seen the new Star Wars land yet, and I'm a total nerd. This is so pathetic. You're
the person I need to contact as soon as I hit up San Diego. I need to be like, Tessa, we need to go to Disneyland. You're the person.
I am your gal. I got you.
So as well as being a successful author, you are also a high school teacher. You've been teaching for 30 years now, and I'm curious as to how you balance, because you're a very, very busy woman. We were discussing this previously before this interview, just about how many projects you constantly have on the go. So I'm curious as to how you manage all of that and how you fit time in for your writing. And I'm also curious as to whether your students know that you're an author.
I don't ever sleep. No, it's a lie.
Is it though?
I know. Is it really? My students do know that I write. The way that this is my story, and I'm sticking to it. They don't know my pen name. I have never announced it to anybody. It's not like I've got great big posters up that say this is me. So if my thought is, if they have found out what my pen name is, then they found it out. I didn't give this information to anybody, but they do know that I write. 5 years ago, I was asked to join our creative writing department. And I thought, thank you, it's about time. I've been trying to, you guys have been asking me to do workshops for you forever, and nothing ever comes of it. And okay, fine. And I had 2 classes. We have a very strange school. We have our school, it goes from 6th through 12th grade. So it's a large span of students. So I had 1 class of middle school beginning writers, and then I had a class of 10th graders that this was their 2nd year in our creative writing program. And I remember this, I thought it was the funniest thing. I was giving a lecture on how to properly format a document. Nothing huge, nothing gigantic. And meanwhile, in the back of our minds, I'm sure anybody that's listening to this is going to go Times New Roman 12-point font, double space, because we've seen that, every time you're going to submit a manuscript, that's exactly what it says. And they were just kind of not paying attention. They're taking their time to get their notebooks out. And I said, all right, if you want your manuscript to be selected by a publisher, suddenly they were just on the edge of their seats, leaning forward. They had that eager expression on their face. It's like, oh, so that's what I have to do to get your attention. But trying to balance it is definitely interesting. I would usually take my weekends as my writing time. If I snuck in a few words when I got home for my day, then that was fine. But most of the time, Saturdays, Sundays, I would come out to where I am right now, which is my lovely little writing space in my backyard. And I would just set up my computer and just knock out a whole bunch of words on the weekends.
What did family and friends think when you told them you were going to be an author?
Well, my mom, oh my gosh, my mom, God rest her soul, she was extremely happy. I've basically been writing my whole life, and my mom would always talk about all the stories that I wrote. One of the stories that I wrote that she just would talk about to anybody, I had written a story when I was in high school, and it was supposed to go in our local newspaper, but they said they couldn't print it because it was so controversial at the time. Okay, no, not really. But I had created this whole story about how the Cabbage Patch dolls, remember those horrible, ugly, terrible things, they were actually controlling people's minds. And so I had this whole huge, gigantic, elaborate story about the Cabbage Patch people taking over the world. The local paper thought that was very entertaining, but not quite what they were looking for. And they also didn't like my whole story about Barbie being a crack whore either. But so these are the stories.
How old were you?
I was about 12. Think about it. I mean, she never had a job, and she had the house, she had the car. It made perfect sense. And I had Ken as the drug dealer. I had this whole story all set out. And my mom thought that was one of the most brilliant things ever written by anybody. So my mom had always been in my corner, and my husband does support me, even though he'll just sit there and, oh, you're writing all that stuff again. It's like, yeah. But I do get wonderful support from my friends and from my family. So
I want to talk about authors who inspired you, because you have heavily been inspired and influenced by authors such as Anne Rice, Cheryl and Kenyon, Christine Feehan.
Yep.
And I want to talk about that a little bit, because I think it's important that we all have mentors and role models. And as you said, we write what we love. So I want to know how reading their books nurtured you into wanting to start writing I guess you've always written, but actually publish it and be on the shelves with them.
For me, I think what it was that for my idea for love and romance, it wasn't just that the Fabio cover with the girl and the bodice rippers, as the industry calls them, the dress coming up and she's holding onto his leg and he's just standing there shirtless, and to me it wasn't that's what love was. It's like, but can't it be more? And I think the first book that I read that kind of let me know that love didn't have to be in the contemporary times, or in that whole bodice ripper type thing, was reading Interview with a Vampire. And so many people go, oh, that wasn't it. It's like, it was. It really was, because you could feel the passion in the pages between the characters. It kind of got me thinking. It's like, oh wow, this could be more. And then I discovered Sherilyn Kenyon, and then I discovered Christine Feehan. And again, just this idea that you could have these amazing and just incredibly diverse characters. So one of them, turns into a wolf at night, or comes in, becomes, whatever. Just the idea that, relationships and love and redemption and all of that could be part of that particular world. I've had some amazing opportunities for speakers and for listening to people, and friendships that have created. I've known Sherilyn for probably about 13 or 14 years now. I actually met her at, just at a book signing, as we all meet a lot of our authors, is at, at that book signing. But we happen to be able to make a connection, and we've been close and have grown closer, throughout the years. And so to me, that's just, this is somebody that I idolized, and to actually, I think it was probably about 6 years ago. The two of us we were at Comic-Con. Yay. We were talking shop, and my brain is sitting there thinking, I'm talking with craft, with a New York Times bestselling author, and we're just like, just like two people talking. It didn't have that feel to it. It was two friends just talking about craft, and how to create characters, and how to do this, and what to do with this story, and to this day, these conversations just blow me away, that I've had these moments. It's realizing that all of us have that person that inspired us, and just to be able to sit down and talk with them, these people that we look up to. It's so important, and to show that we don't all have to fit into those little boxes of, and when I think about the boxes, I picture those Harlequin books, and they all look the same, and to me it's so funny, because now I have friends that write for Harlequin.
I love that, though. It's an important discussion to have, though, with when it comes to inspiration and idols, because I've had the same thing. You're really like, oh my goodness, it's this author, like I've loved you for so many years, and then you have a conversation, and then you're really on level ground. And I think that's also like a self-acknowledgement as well, as to how far you've come in your career too. I remember when I first started, there was a particular author who I absolutely loved and adored. She was indie published as well. And within 2 years, so like at the start, I was watching what she was doing and a movement, and I wanted to do similar steps, because everything she was doing I thought was right. And then come 2 years down the track, she was messaging me saying, hey, how are you doing this? How's this going? I was like, that's such a turnaround, like just to have that acknowledgement. And now, 6 years later down the track, we're actually working on a project together. And to me, that is everything. You can see your personal growth through the contacts and the network that you have. And a lot of people say, I'm lucky to have met this person. I think, well, not necessarily. You also are a highly intelligent person. You know the industry that you're in, and when they had a conversation with you, they had that connection. I'm like, that's all you as well. And of course, like Kemet, like it's just making friends, and we have a really good opportunity to make friends with those people, because we're all in the same world, like we're all in the same industry. So it's really interesting. And as soon as you get over the shakes and the why are they talking to me like a normal person,
Yes,
it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I think one of the coolest people that I've ever had the opportunity to talk to within this particular world is, without a doubt, Neil Gaiman. And because, okay, Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, largest convention in the entire world. I have been working Comic-Con since the mid-90s. just started off as a volunteer working working with a couple of the departments. And so I've been doing this for so long, and I've met a lot of people through this. I used to work in the smaller rooms with all the writers, but I got to work in one of the large rooms. This was ever so long ago, and had a chance to meet Neil Gaiman. And the man is just beyond brilliant, beyond brilliant. And he has these incredible ideas. And it's like, where did that come from? It's like some divine light just shines down on him. But he is, again, another amazing person to be able to have a conversation with. And you take in all of these amazing ideas.
What is your top marketing tip?
I think for me, right now, what I'm really doing is it's a lot of the social media. I'm always on Facebook. I'm always getting out there. I know that myself and some friends that I made, because we were all with this horrible publishing house that went under and took all of our money with us. Yay. So anyway, I know, yay. But we all kind of banded together, and we trade information back and forth. And so many of them are talking, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this, you have to do that. And for me, it's making the personal connections. I send out my books. I send out all sorts of little swag packs to people. I have found that that's the best ways. It's that, hey, if you'd like to read my book, here it is. And this is what I write. And if you're interested, let me help you out. But sales has never been my thing. I worked in a retail store for 2 months. 2 months. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. And then I ended up going to the restaurant, which I totally rocked. Because in my mind, when you walk into the restaurant, you already want food. So it's not a huge, gigantic sell, because you've already said you're hungry, you want something to eat. But we all know, walking through the retail stores, you walk through and leave. So I was never good at that high pressure sell. I do like, to let people know, hey, I'll talk about my book. I'll send my books. I'll send you things, and just making those connections. I'm still trying to figure out what really, really is going to be the key thing. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, the Facebook ads are awesome. Oh, Amazon ads are awesome. Oh, you got to go to Goodreads. You got to go. So for me, Instagram, Facebook, that's really where I'm finding all sorts of connections and people that are reading and spreading the word. And again, I think for me, it goes back to writing a book that I want to read. And personally, I don't want to follow those trends. I don't want, when the 50 Shades of Grey, and I will stop right there. When that came out and everybody had the billionaire BDSM things, no, people, and then the next thing was male, and then everybody was on that, and then it's reverse harems, and everybody's on that. It's like, I don't want to do that, because then all you're doing is chasing. All you're doing is chasing the trends. If you write a good story, people are going to read it.
You and I have only known each other for 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever it may be. But I think you're great from what I can see on the outside as well. But I think what your strongest attribute is because you're so impersonable and you are so interactive. So I really can see why networking is like such a massive thing for you, because not a lot of authors have the charisma that you do, which is fabulous. And you high energy, it's epic, let's do this. And talking to you now, I'm like, yeah, there's a reason why people feel connected and they want to know more about your books, is because of who you are as well. So I think your author brand is pretty strong, to be honest, because of you, like as a person.
Oh, thank you. Part of me says I've had way too much theatrical training. I did my very, very first show that I ever did. I was 5. I was 5 years old, and I was in a production of The Sound of Music, which to this day, I still hate that show. Because not only was I in this production, I was in this production for, oh my gosh, I think it ran Like it was kind of like the Nutcracker, the Christmas Carol. It just kept, every year it would come around again. And I had the same part. I was that littlest Von Trapp kid. That was me from the time I was 5 until I was about 9. I was the littlest Von Trapp kid that was going, adieu, adieu to you and you and you. And the stupid little yellow pinafore for 4 years because it still fit. Always just been this crazy outgoing person. And my brother, who's actually a year older than me, is painfully shy, absolutely painfully shy. So whenever we would go someplace, I would have to order for him in the restaurants because he was too afraid to talk to the people behind the counter. And I don't, this is the subject. If I were to show this to him, he'd watch it and go, yeah, it's true. I tell people I have never been accused of being shy for the whole of my life.
My last and favorite question, what is the dream? What is the goal? What are you chasing?
My goal was almost realized this year. This is the weird thing, because my goal has been, like I said, I've been working comic book conventions for years. So my goal was to actually be on that stage, to be on the panel, because I'm the one that either is sitting there moderating or just sends people up on the stage and brings it back down. I always wanted to be on that table with the placard in front of me with my name on it, and just, taking questions and all that kind of stuff in a convention setting. And the convention was canceled. So it's like, so close, so close. It was so close. That is my dream, is to just be on one of those panels. I wouldn't even care if there were 8 people in the room, but just big, huge, gigantic convention, like, because it was going to be at WonderCon, which is the smaller version of Comic-Con. That would have happened back in March. It was supposed to be at the end of March, early April, and we had to cancel it. And so now it's like, okay, well, so hopefully next year, it'll roll back around and I'll be able to be on my panel. As much as, I would love to see that, New York Times bestselling author. I'd love to see the USA Today bestselling author. But I'm, oddly enough, this is going to sound really strange. Oddly enough, I am really, really too chicken to send my books to these places, because, again, I don't see me as being that, New York Times bestselling author, because that's those people that publish with the big houses. It's not I don't want to say the little people, but it's the idea of the indie press actually becoming recognized by those tycoons. If it happens in my life, if it happens, it happens. It's not my driving goal. So my 2 little goals are, 1, to be on the panel, and 2, without a doubt, I would love to have someone that I don't personally know. I would love to have somebody come up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, you're Tessa McFionn. I've read your books." That is my dream.
So I have a couple of little random questions at the end. Okay. So my first one is, what song would best describe you?
Well, one of my very most favorite groups of all time kind of fits me quite well, and it's Disturbed. A bit of a metalhead. I actually have, my ringtone on my phone has been the same since 2006. I have not changed my ringtone since 2006. Stricken is my ringtone because it starts with that lovely primal scream, and it scares the crap out of everybody whenever I'm Christmas shopping, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So that would be my theme.
If you could be any paranormal creature, what would it be?
A dragon. Simple, easy. That way, I could, if I turn into a human, fine. If I eat a human, that's better. I live in a big cave. I got lots of money. It works. It totally works.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever done to avoid someone? Like, For example, hiding in a bush or hiding behind a person, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, to avoid somebody. Gosh, hiding has always been a good stand for me. I don't have anything embarrassing. I never went into like the boys' bathroom or something like that. I have done the whole thing where you lift your feet off the floor in the bathroom stall so people don't know you're in there. I have done that one. I don't think I've really done anything that crazy because most people are usually the ones running from me. So yeah, I mean, like I said, usuals. I've ducked into cabinets. I have kind of closed myself into shower curtains before. Pretty normal, pretty standard, run and hide things.
What's your favorite travel destination?
Oh, without a doubt, my favorite travel destination is Ireland. I haven't been back. I know. I haven't been back in a very, very long time. My husband and I went there for our honeymoon. And then about 4 years after that, I took 19 high school students on a 2-week trip to London and Ireland with myself and 2 other teachers. And I tell people that there were moments when only 17 were going to be coming back. A couple of the boys I was tempted to leave them in a couple of not nice places. One of them was the dungeon in Blarney Castle, which I almost thought about very, very seriously. But I just absolutely loved Ireland. The warmth of the people, just absolutely everything. And when I was there on my honeymoon, my husband and I actually stayed in a little thatched roof cottage. So I mean, we had the whole thing. So it was again, that whole idea of magic. And it was absolutely magical, and I loved it, and I would love to go back.
What 3 words would your friends use to best describe you?
Energetic, honest, gosh, probably say creative, because I can come up with the most random, bizarre things that will come up. Well, it's like, oh, well, what do you want to do? How about if we do this? My brother and I were notorious. You never played the game, Guess Who I Saw? That was never a game that you ever wanted to play with my brother and I nearby. Guess who I ran into in the store today? Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, Darth Vader, your dad. And nobody would be able to get ever answer the question, because it would just be something else that would pop up. So I think those would be my 3 words.
That was all my questions. I have had such a fun time, Tessa. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. This has been absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, bye. Mwah. Thank you.